So let's take a look at the first section, chapter 4, which is 4.1, writing equations in slope-intercept form. So you don't have to write this part down. This is just kind of telling you what we're going to do. We're going to practice writing equations of lines in that y equals mx plus b. And we're going to do it 4 different ways. Okay. So the first way, I'm going to just tell you the slope and the y-intercept. The second way, I'm going to give you a picture. The third way, I'm going to give you 2 points, and you're going to have to figure out the slope-intercept form. And the fourth way is a linear function, which, if I remember right, it's kind of like 2 points. All right, so we'll do a couple of these now, and then we'll try to do a couple of them when we come back the second time. All right, so this will be the first thing to write down. You guys already told me it. What's the equation of a line in slope-intercept form? What are the letters and what does it look like?
Y equals mx plus b.
Yep, y equals mx plus b. So in the box, just at the very, very top of the box, not where it says slope yet, we're going to do that, but at the top where it says y equals, just fill in the mx plus b at the very top. What's the m? Does anybody remember what that stands for?
Isn't that the slope?
That's the slope. Yep. And how about the b?
That's the y-intercept.
The y-intercept. Yes. So m is going to be the slope. You already have an arrow pointing down, so you don't have to write anything for that. And then b, well, you can write that one down if you want onto the side first. So b is the y-intercept. Okay, and remember what that means. If you have a line like that, that's the y-intercept. It means where it crosses the y-axis. So this one might be like 0, maybe it's 0, -2. Okay, so when you write it as a coordinate, it always has a 0 in the first number because you have to if you want to be on the y-axis. All right, so that's the b. And then the m, what did we say the m was again?
Slope.
The slope. And do you remember there's 2 words we use to describe the slope that begin with an R?
Rise over the run.
Right, it's the rise over the run. So that formula is not new. I think we've done it before. But if you don't remember it, you might want to write it down in the box where you have the two fractions with the equal sign between them. And remember these values right here, those come from a coordinate. So if I gave you, let's just kind of skip ahead 1 second. Right? If I gave you 2 points like that, that's where you would have to use the rise over run formula. Right? That's x1, y1, x2, and y2. We're probably not going to get to that one till you come back later today. But, yeah, later today. But that's when you would have to do the rise over run formula, when you have 2 pairs of coordinates. And then you fill them in right there. Okay. Any questions on what goes in that box? All right. So now we know the goal, what we're looking for. Every answer today is going to look like this. Your goal is to figure out the m and the b and fill those 2 numbers in. And as I said, there's 4 different ways we're going to figure out the m and the b. First way is the easiest. I'm just going to tell you what they are. Right? We just have to remember which one goes where. So to write an equation of a line, if I tell you the slope and the y-intercept. So where it says use, and then you have that first bullet, you've got some blank space next to it, put down y equals mx plus b. You're pretty much going to write that for every problem we do. It's always going to be use the y equals mx plus b. Okay, on the second bullet, it says plug in the number that they give you for the slope. So fill in the word slope. And make sure you fill that in for m. And how do you know it's the slope? There's always an x attached to it. So the slope is always the number that has the x that's attached to it. So we've got to make sure we fill in the slope for m. And then the next one is going to say, we're going to plug in the number for the, what's the other thing besides the slope? The y-intercept. And we have to fill that in for what letter?
B.
B. No, B. So plug in the number for the y-intercept for B. So those two things I underlined in red, that's what you want to fill in on your guided notes. And this is, again, this is the easiest one because I tell you the two numbers to plug in. You don't have to figure them out yet. Okay? So that's it. Any questions on that? All right, let's try. So, first example, it says write an equation of the line, and I'm going to tell you the slope, and I'm going to tell you the y-intercept. Okay, so in this case, the slope is -3, and the y-intercept is -4. Can someone remind me again, what's the equation we're going to plug it to? Yeah?
Y equals mx plus b.
Y equals mx plus b. And the two things you have to fill in are that and that. Okay, so we've already got the y equals. And what's the m in this case?
-3.
Yes. So that's your m. Whoops, don't write m, write -3. And what goes next to the -3?
-4.
X.
X. So you have to make sure you always put the x next to the slope, just like we wrote right here. Make sure you attach an x next to it. And now it says plus b. What's b in this case?
-4.
-4. So in this case, it's really not going to be plus b. It's going to end up being minus b, which is fine. That's because b is -4. And that's it. That's writing the equation of a line given the slope and the y-intercept. Any question on that? Let's try one more of those, and then we'll do the second type, which will probably be the last type we get to right now. All right. First of all, let's just write down the equation. Madeline, what's the equation we're using? Y equals mx plus b. All right. So y equals, what's m in this case? 0. So 0 times x. And what's b?
-2.
-2. Now, this one you can simplify a little bit. What's 0 times x?
X.
That would be 1 times x.
Oh,
would be
zero.
x. This would be 0. 0 times anything is 0. So really, this part just cancels out.
So there's no slope.
So, well, the slope is 0. And when it's 0, we don't have to write it.
So it'll be undefined.
So what would be here then?
-2.
Just -2. So the slope in that problem is 0. But when it's 0, we don't have to write it. Any question on that? So So you just take the two numbers they give you and fill them in. The only time you got to do something a little extra is if this is a 0, you can cross it out and just really put the -2. If you put 0x minus 2, it wouldn't be wrong, right? But you don't need to write 0x. All right, so let's look at the second type, and this will be the last type that we probably get to. All right, it's going to say use, and tell me again, what's the equation we're using? Y equals mx plus b. Yep. Now, this time you're going to be given a picture. So you have to figure out the slope and the y-intercept by looking at the picture. So the way you can figure out the y-intercept is when you look at the picture, tell me where the graph crosses the y-axis. That's going to be your y-intercept. Well, we're going to do one in a second. Yeah. So identify where the graph crosses the y-axis, and this is the y-intercept. So you want to write in what's bold. Okay. And then the second step is we need the slope. Well, the slope, what was the formula again? It had those two words that begin with R.
Rise over run.
Rise over run. So we're going to count either up and to the right. That would be a positive slope. If your line goes up to the right, it looks like that. So if you want to draw a little picture of what a positive slope looks like, you could put that. So up, that's the rise, and right is the run. So you're going to count how many up and how many right you go, and those are the two numbers that you're going to fill into the fraction. Now, instead of going up into the right, what's the other way we could go besides up?
Down.
We could go down. Well, if we go down to the right, that's a negative slope. Here's a picture of what negative slope looks like. So we would count down. Even though we're counting down, that number is still called the rise. Anything up or down is called rise. The only difference when you count down is a negative number, versus up is a positive number. Now there is one other kind of slope you could have that we're going to talk about. There's actually two others, but only one that we're going to talk about. If your line's not slanting up and it's not slanting down, what other way could it be?
Straight. Negative.
Well, they're all straight.
Uh,
This is straight and that's straight.
Like it's
vertical.
Vertical is one. Yeah, and what's another one?
Horizontal.
Horizontal. We're not going to talk about vertical, but we are going to talk about horizontal. Well, if it slants up, and that's a positive slope, and it slants down, and that's a negative slope, what kind of slope do you think horizontal is?
Infinite.
What is it?
Infinite.
Not infinite.
Like not defined.
Negative?
Undefinable.
0. It's the one we actually did in the last problem. When the slope is 0, that's horizontal slope. So let's try this one. So it says step 1, identify where the line crosses the y-axis. What's that called again, where it crosses the y-axis?
Y-intercept.
That's the y-intercept.
So it would be 2.
2. Yep. Crosses the y-axis at 2. It's always this number right here. It's the second number. Up 2. And what letter is that, the y-intercept?
B.
That's going to be the B. Yep. And what's the other thing I need besides the y-intercept?
B slope.
I need the slope. And now we're going to count from this point to that point. Okay, first of all, are we going to go up and to the right, or are we going to go down and to the right?
Down.
Down.
So that means this kind of slope is going to be what number?
Negative.
Yeah, it's going to be a negative because it's down and to the right. Okay, looks like this picture. Okay, so how many down do we have to go?
4.
1, 2, 3. So we went down 3. And remember, that's the rise. Where does the rise go in the fraction?
On top.
Yep, goes on top. So that's rise over run. Our rise is down 3. And then right how many?
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect.
Does it matter where you put the negative symbol?
Nope, we usually just put it in the top. And what letter is that? The slope. That's the M. Now you know you figured out the y-intercept and the slope. Now it's just like the last problem. Okay, what's the equation that we always use? Y equals mx plus b. Now we know what to fill in for the m and for the b. What number are we filling in for the m?
Negative 3/46.
Negative 3/4. And make sure you attach the x to it. And what number are we filling in for b?
2.
2. Question on that one before we do our last one? Let's do the last picture. All right, so let's start with the y-intercept. Where does it look like that graph
3.
crosses the y-axis? Yeah, what is it?
3.
3. So y-intercept is 3. And now the slope. Does this line slant up?
No. It's
No.
It would be 0.
Does it slant down?
No.
No, so it's special because it's perfectly flat. It's horizontal. What did we say the slope is when it's horizontal?
0.
0. It's kind of a special case. Anytime that it's horizontal, it's a 0 slope. Okay, so what's the equation we always use?
Y was supposed to be.
Y equals mx plus b. And this time, what are we filling in for m?
0, but you can
Yep, we'll fill it in for now. So we put 0 and what goes next to it?
X.
X. And what are we filling in for b?
3, so it would be plus B.
So plus 3. And if we wanted to simplify that, can someone else tell me your final answer? Yeah?
Y equals 3.
Yeah. Okay, that only happens when the slope is 0, that x disappears. Okay, so those are the first 2 kinds of problems. And the last 2 are pretty similar. They're not that much harder, but we'll do those when you guys come back this afternoon.
What size